Hey guys, welcome back to CXO Conversations live at IFF 2026 here in Kigali. I am super happy for this episode because I am with my friend Robert Ochola, CEO of AfricaNenda Foundation. Robert, brother, welcome.
Thank you very much, my brother. Happy to be here, happy to be back in Kigali, and congratulations for another amazing event, and congratulations to our hosts for inviting all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let's bring sort of AfricaNenda, to the crowd. This is a podcast, so not everyone will know fintech, not everyone will know, financial inclusion, not everyone is a technician, but tell us a little bit, what AfricaNenda is and does, and then we'll get to the juicy part of, your own story and the marvelous mission you are leading in Africa.
Thank you so much, my brother, Matteo. It's a pleasure to be here. And just to start by saying AfricaNenda is trying to focus on one key problem. That problem is today, in the year 2026, we still have about 400 million Africans who cannot access any financial system, be it a mobile wallet, be it a bank account, or even some form of QR code. So they keep their money in a mattress in cash. So that's what us guys are trying to solve for.
Which is unsafe, unpractical, very risky, right?
Absolutely. And of course, you'll never be able to build any resilience, any savings products, never have access to insurance like most other people would have.
So how do you do this?
Right. So we do this using two approaches. The first one is that there is still a regulatory issue. So we try and spend our time speaking to regulators, policymakers to say, listen, can we create an enabling environment to bring those who are excluded into the financial inclusion bracket? That's the first thing. And then on the second side, we also try and say, can we build affordable systems that interoperate and bring on board more systems, so not just mobile money, not just banks, but also ignite, I think, the fintech ecosystem. So that's what we're trying to do.
I love the mission of AfricaNenda, but what I really actually, what I'm interested about in as well is your own personal story, Robert. So tell us a little bit before becoming CEO of AfricaNenda, that then morphed into the AfricaNenda Foundation, and also would love, if you care to share, why this move is super interesting. I mean, I can common sensely understand, with this logical move, but what did you do before? We are friends for the best part of the past 5 years. I don't think I ever asked you that.
You know why? Because you and I are so business focused, we jump straight into let's solve the problem.
Because we mostly meeting, probably this is the 25th conference Robert and I are sharing.
Absolutely. And this time we have an opportunity to not just discuss the work, but also...
Exactly.
So let me thank you for that question. I'll start off. So my background is engineering. So I studied material and mechanical engineering. And then my first job was actually a lecturer. So I lectured in mechanical engineering for about 2 years in a university in Kenya.
Okay.
I then got an opportunity to go do a PhD, so I did that at Cape Town. And then I came in and I was working as a lubricants engineer for Shell company. At that time, you then had mobile phones companies coming into East Africa.
Yeah.
They started out in Uganda and then moved to Kenya. So I jumped into the mobile world. And then 2006.
It was pre-M-Pesa.
It was way pre-M-Pesa. So 2006 is actually where I heard about some guys doing some stuff, moving money around. And that, of course, was the competitor. I was working for another company, which wasn't building M-Pesa. But I saw what the power of moving money through a mobile phone was all about. So I spent about 4.5 years building payment systems. That time, the fiber backbone was also rolling around the continent.
But more on the infrastructure side or on the business side?
So I was more on the business side, market development. So how do you use emerging technology to transform and bring on board customers? So that's what I focused on. Then at around 2010, I was asking myself, because of what I saw happening in mobile money in Kenya, is it the banks that's going to win this, or will the mobile money operators So I battled with that, and then I joined the biggest bank in East Africa at the time, KCB's Strategy and Innovation. We tried to build a mobile money solution. The bank didn't quite get it, which is fine, but we did transform, how mobile was treated at banking society. So at least we moved the needle. Finally, an opportunity came to join Safaricom. So I was part of the group that built the payment to merchant network called M-Pesa.
Okay.
And then I spent about 7 years at a development bank called AfricaNenda Bank. I set up the strategy and innovation department. That was quite interesting because we were focused on intra-African trade, which is part of the AFCFTA, the Agenda 2063, trying to increase intra-African trade, but also built a payment system for cross-border payments. Now that pivots me to the opportunity for AfricaNenda. I've always been keen to sit at the helm of an organization and sort of mold it to drive change, especially for those who are underserved. So when the opportunity came up to set up AfricaNenda, I jumped at it. And that was about 4.5 years ago. And that's where we are today, Matteo.
So there is a question that I could actually bet that hardly nobody ever asked you. Let's see. You can tell me truthfully. So I believe that I am pretty sure at least of one conversation that you had from someone that was pitching you AfricaNenda. Is a very good friend of both of us,
yes,
Mr. Costa Peric from the Gates Foundation. So I am pretty sure that one of the interviews was with him, right? If not the main one, it was one of them.
It was the main one.
It was the main one, absolutely. Exactly. How did he pitch AfricaNenda to you?
Great. So absolutely. I had my final conversation with Costa Peric. First of all, Costa told me that he grew up in Burundi. So that touched my heart. I mean, here's somebody who's worked in SWIFT, but he has the pulse of Africa in his heart.
Absolutely.
So you're not doing he's not there just for a job. He understands the plight. And he's been part of a transformation, of course, with you, of course, having done some amazing stuff in Tribe in SWIFT. So when he pitched that the fact is, listen, they're looking to shift the dynamics of payments and those who are underserved, I was sold immediately.
So it was a very long interview.
I think he was still trying to figure out if I could do the job. But from his side, I was like, I'm convinced. I need to join this tribe, this movement.
And so we are in, I want to say the cradle or the poster child or one of the poster childs of AfricaNenda, because Rwanda is the first country where IIPS system is live, So tell us a little bit about the journey, and of course, I believe that the first conversations with the regulators here, immediately got a fertile ground for this. But tell us a little bit, like a juicy story behind it, if you can share some.
Absolutely. So the first thing we did, of course, was to try and put together a team that sort of was passionate, and we picked up a phenomenal colleague called Vanessa, who's based here in Mutomi. And, she was very critical in achieving that, because you got to work with people who understand that they need to move at pace, but with the right level of quality. That's the first thing that was an important ingredient. The second important ingredient is, I think, that the way Rwanda is set up is public sector with a private sector mindset.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That means that, sorry, I'm not sort of speaking ill of other countries, but what you can do in Rwanda in 1 year can take you 5 years in other markets. So the conditions were also perfect. When I came to Rwanda, it did not take me long to meet the minister, Honorable Paula Ingabire, and also my brother, who's now the ambassador in Singapore,
Innocent
Muhizi, who of course is running RISA. So if you look at the structure of Rwanda's government, they had one organization, RISA, that was consolidating innovation. So we were able to get access to them. We did a proof of concept. And I remember this very well. Innocent told me, you know what, we haven't finished the proof of concept, but you've shown me that these two wires can touch, and therefore there's money that can move. And he understood that better than any of us. So once we achieved the proof of concept, which Minister Paula told me, that Rwanda is a proof of concept nation. So if you want to test something, you can come and test it efficiently, effectively, and if it works, and we buy into it, we shall execute. And that's exactly how we find ourselves with, of course, the first system that we've helped build using African software engineers, 100%, was built here in Kigali.
Amazing. So, building on the Rwanda story, you are now, and I know it for a fact because we are both partner, of the Gates Foundation, and I have the pleasure of meeting the whole African and the team in the different partners meeting with Gates. So there are a number of conversations in parallel with a number of central banks across Africa.
That's
right? What is it? In the approach, okay, what is it the easiest thing to convince them about? And what is the most complicated things for them to act upon?
You didn't tell me you're going to ask difficult questions. I thought this was supposed to be a cup of tea and an easy chat. And then you want to give me water, but okay, I'll attempt to. Let me start with the one that's easier.
Yes.
And the fact that we told them that, guess what? We're this young company called AfricaNenda, but we're working with Rwanda. Everybody's like, we need to listen to these guys.
Nenda in Swahili means
go.
So let's go, right?
Let's go.
It's Africa, let's go.
Africa, let's go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the fact that we've had such support from Rwanda, everybody's like, yeah, okay, we want to listen to you. And indeed, when you go do your due diligence, it's confirmed. So that, I think, was an easier thing to do had we not had that strong background and support structure.
So getting central bank to listen is easy.
Only because you have a strong country that you've done some work.
Of course.
So that was the first thing.
Of course.
The most difficult is to align the ecosystem partners. Because, one of the data points I want to give you, Matteo, is, I mentioned, the likes of mobile money that's been on the continent for, since 2006.
Yeah.
By and large.
2 decades.
Right. But the issue is, those players are like, what problem are you trying to solve? Because we already have mobile money. But the problem we need to solve is this, and I'll just be very quick, is that 400 million that I told you about, we did a sort of an analysis to say that if we continue at the same pace of bringing on board customers that we have done over the last 5 years, by 2030, we would have only brought in 60 million. So by 2030, you still have 360 million Africans. So we need to move that number down faster. So trying to convince them that, listen, yes, you've done great work with the onboarding on mobile money, but to bring in the next group, the final frontier, we need to accelerate that. So getting people to buy into that has been the biggest challenge.
And I suppose that your mission has sort of different layers, right? Because once you enable an ecosystem, then there is an avenue of opportunities that you guys are building as an infrastructure for example, entrepreneurs to come to use the instant payment systems to build solutions. So I guess that this is also part of what you're trying to evangelize, in the different ecosystem. Am I right?
Absolutely. Because, the fact is, different players can play different roles and different players are nimble to a certain extent. So the banks have their roles, the mobile money operators have their roles. But I think on the continent of Africa, it's time to also ignite, not just the unicorn fintechs, but even some small 10-man fintech organizations that can solve for, a lady selling tomatoes in 5 villages. And if you can solve for that, you'll transform their lives because your cost structure is small. You're using still the best-in-class knowledge and technology, but you're cheaper, smaller in terms of the cost. So of your infrastructure and your resources. So that's the kind of thing we want to ignite. And I know there's very many schools of thoughts around the size of businesses and how you get economic transformation. But MSME growth, even in Europe, has been a big engine for growth. So that's our philosophy.
What? One of the things, there are many things that I love about AfricaNenda, but one of the things that I really love the most is the fact that you're really a democratic infrastructure. And I want to give you an example, guys. So every year, AfricaNenda does what they call an IIPS report, right. Which is both an event and the issue of the yearly sort of progress or the status.
Yeah.
And last year they did it in Eswatini,
Mhm.
which is a country that, and I know it for a fact because I wasn't there, but I actually coached one entrepreneur from there. So, and then that day I sort of became familiar with the ecosystem. But it's not a country that everyone, the Lambda guy knows even where it is, right?
Absolutely.
And you guys leverage the local ecosystem, speak with the regulator.
Mhm.
So, like one or two highlights maybe from that event is a question that sort of popped up.
Yeah, and Eswatini was an amazing experience. Everybody who came to Eswatini, first of all, was so excited about the warmth and how friendly the people were. So first of all, that was, I think, something that everybody took. So everybody who came took a part of Eswatini with them. That's the first thing from a sort of, soft perspective.
Yes.
But the buy-in from the central bank governor was extremely important. And he continues to be an evangelist and an ambassador for the work that we're doing as AfricaNenda. So again, a small country, as you say, but with a loud voice. So that was one of the biggest things from the SIPS launch that I was very excited about.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And maybe one last consideration on IFF. So this is the third edition.
Mm-hmm.
You've been with us in all of them.
Yes.
For a good reason. So this is one of the, I want to say, 2-3 largest fintech gathering,
Absolutely.
in the continent. How do you see, engaging in these large events? Because what I perceived, and as you know, we are going to speak at different, events in different continents,
Mm-hmm.
not only in Africa, but the vibes here is different somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know how to express it, but as a speaker, you come down from the podium,
Mm-hmm.
and you have 50 people that comes in, from the students to and everyone wants a piece of you, rightly so.
Absolutely.
And that gives you energy at the same time.
Mhm.
It's draining on one side,
Yes.
but it gives you energy. What's your give us a big up on IFF.
Yeah, so IFF, first of all, happening in Kigali, and I've seen it grow. And when I say grow, it doesn't mean the first one was small. It was really huge and intense. And the energy is something, as you say, you can never actually comprehend. That energy in the room is powerful. I think what's also powerful about the IFF event, as you said, is the bringing together of different stakeholders. Students on one hand, but also senior leadership.
Absolutely.
Who, when they come here, they're very approachable. And I think that comes from the leadership style that Rwanda executes more than most countries. And I think the combination of that sort of makes everybody approachable, creates this very comfortable atmosphere. And I think that's why it's a very unique event. And as you said, we've been around, we've seen a few things, different events across the world. But that uniqueness is something I think you will not find in many events.
Thank you. This, as a part of the, one of the founders of this, I actually take it, and for the team as well, is a great token of appreciation. So this is just literally, you only spent half a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you had already, but I'm pretty sure you did. But if we were at the third day, I usually finish every podcast with name one single conversation or one person that you sort of hugged back that you haven't seen in a while. And I don't know if you can already tell me one of the two. And I don't know if it already happened this morning. We probably do, because you're a very solicited man.
No, okay. So, but let me say about the conversation. Actually, and I think, first of all, kudos to you and your team and the organizers. It's as usual, world class and very well organized event. I'm going to be selfish with the questions. Yeah, open finance, because I'm actually leading a session tomorrow. So I think that's probably going to be, and I mean that because I think that is probably the next wave of innovation that needs to take place on the continent to transform us now to the next and final frontier. So I think that to me will be a big, big takeaway. And the panel that I'm on tomorrow will be amazing. I'm moderating a panel on open finance. So that, to me, I know with the group of people I'm sitting with, will be a phenomenal conversation. In terms of hugging somebody, there's so many people, plenty. And from the time I was in Nairobi coming here, like, oh, where are you going? Where are you going? Oh yeah, okay, Rwanda. Yeah, I said Rwanda. Excellent. To coming here and going for lunch, it's a melting pot. Yeah. So
so many. Pot. It's difficult
Absolutely.
to point one.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. Actually, now that I think of it, Robert just remind me something that tomorrow is going to be moderating a panel. Mm-hmm. Robert usually is in the speaker seat. Mm-hmm. And I think, as we dealt with the content of IFF, mm-hmm. and we mindfully put Robert to moderate mm-hmm. Such a dialogue. But I think, but that's, we are in a podcast, we can say anything. I think you're a speaker disguised as a moderator tomorrow. That's why I think the panel is going to be amazing.
Thank you for that. And honestly, I'm always humbled to have the opportunity to come here and also lend my voice to a very important conversation. Matteo, you have Africa at your heart, at the center of your heart, and I like that. And thank you for always giving us the opportunity to discuss what I think is the most important thing that we must unlock is how do we ignite the fintechs on this continent. That is the frontier for me. Yeah. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I've been in the game for probably about 25, 30 years now, right? So I think I might have a bit of, credibility when I say that.
The good news is that, Robert and I, this is not to reveal any age, guys, but let's say that we are close enough to probably will get to retirement at 95, more or less, in not distant years.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy this ride with Robert because we share more than a mission, and it's great to call you a friend.
And thanks for making the time, and thanks for inviting me to this podcast. I don't take it for granted. And looking forward to another amazing couple of days here.
Great, guys. Robert Ochola at the CXO Conversations, and this is a wrap.